Hey iScrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today's Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Hope everyone's doing well, enjoying some of these Democratic primaries. If you're into politics, if you're not, I hope you're enjoying this roller coaster of a stock market that we've been doing. If you're not into that, I hope you've been enjoying the roller coaster of a copper market we're seeing. If you're not into that, I hope you're enjoying this roller coaster of steel that you're into seeing. I think you get a bit of the idea here. These markets are all over the place, and it's been one of the most upsetting, paralyzing, kind of, what's going on next things that we've been seeing over the last month and a half or so. So again, today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Every Wednesday afternoon, we try to go live around 1 p.m. Eastern time to talk about the scrap market. Talk about different metal prices, different ideas and things that we've seen. If you're watching this live, make sure you comment with any questions. We'll try to answer them live during our podcast. If you're watching this afterwards, please comment as well, and we'll make sure to get you an answer if one of your fellow scrappers don't get it before we do. So if you're looking to sell your catalytic converters, rrcats.com, rrcats.com, our sister company. We've been buying hundreds, if not thousands of cats from fellow iScrappers, so we encourage you to check our website out. So let's get right into the meat and potatoes. Copper. Copper has been very flat overall over the last 10 days, but it's had a couple of very bumpy days. Now, in the beginning of February, when a lot of this coronavirus talk came out, that's when we saw the big 25-cent drop in the copper market. Now, it did stabilize, never really dipping below $2.50 on the trading side of things, but it has not really increased either. We've seen 2 or 3 cents. Overall, we've seen the market claw its way back. It's around 257 to 258 trading prices right now. But we have seen a real pullback of any type of aggressive pricing for the reported prices that are coming in. Now, we've been talking to dozens of scrap yards throughout the US and Canada, trying to get a feel of what they think's going on, and they're really mimicking a lot of the things that we're seeing and hearing on the news. The coronavirus was such a shock to not only the US or China, but the entire world, that it really is disrupting and upsetting a lot of the supply chains. Now, supply chains are things that we generally don't talk about here at iScrap, but let's talk about them today so we can talk about how they affect so many different things. When we're selling copper, when you're selling copper to your scrapyard, the scrapyard is moving it, packaging it, selling it to a mill, shipping it overseas, maybe selling it to a larger scrapyard or a larger processor. From there, they're taking their material and it's getting refined, made into ingots, new bar stock, cold rolled steel, whatever it may be. It's then being sold to a manufacturing facility that could be making things from smartphones, computers, microwaves, office chairs, anything that involves metal. Now, with so many products being built overseas, especially in China, you could pick up so many items right now and look on the back of it and it says made in China, that the supply chain is now disrupted due to the coronavirus. Now, while it's primarily been focused in that Wuhan area inside of China, what it's done is it's created a large scare, and the large scare has made it so a lot of the supply chain has been upset. Now, we've seen pictures posted online with streets throughout Hong Kong and other large cities inside of China or any of its provinces, and the streets are relatively empty and most people are wearing masks. Now, this has shown that a lot of the companies have cut down on their employees coming in. We've heard about larger corporations such as Twitter and even Facebook stopping a lot of overseas travel and even stopping some of their offices overseas from having their employees come in and telecommuting because of the scare of the coronavirus. So, of course, when you take this and you apply it to a manufacturing side of things, you're going to see a pullback overall because people aren't going in working. Now, if they're not going in working, then metal isn't required. If metal isn't required, scrap is not going to get consumed and needed as quickly. And this will lead to a lot of the lower prices that we've seen. So we're watching these things and we're saying to ourselves, well, we really hope that we start to see some type of market correction, but a lot of that is really going to be completely reliant on when the coronavirus is going to kind of break. Now, we've seen multiple cases popping up here in the US. We've seen them popping up in Iran, in Italy, China, and 60 or 70 other countries that have seen almost 100,000 cases altogether and almost 3,000 deaths resulted directly from this unexpected virus. Now, this has happened before, whether it was SARS, mad cow disease, or these different things that have popped up that are unexpected, and you can't immediately come up with a vaccination, especially for a new disease. So when these things happen, they upset the entire market. Take the stock market, for example. Over the last 10 days, we've seen some crazy swings in the stock market. On Monday this week, we saw the stock market jump over 1,200 points. Yesterday, it dropped 700 points. Today, it was up 600 points. Last week was 5 out of 7 days in a row that we saw the stock market drop like 15% overall. I believe I heard the number like something crazy, like $3 trillion was erased in market value over that 7-day losing streak. Almost sounds like Monopoly money. Maybe not Monopoly that we would play, but it still sounds fake. So when we're watching these things and trying to figure out how they're going to affect other things, that's what you call the supply chain or the domino effect. So if manufacturing facilities overseas are not consuming as much metal because they're having a slowdown, that means less is being produced, less is being shipped, less is coming over to the United States as well as other countries. New products are no longer replacing older products as quickly as they were. The older products are no longer getting recycled or scrapped. And that's where the loop of the supply chain starts to really slow itself down. So while there still are different items out there that we can get, that we can scrap, you're still looking at things in a completely new light. Let's talk about the iron market. Next week, we heard that the steel prices are going to be softening, dropping down another $7 to $15 per ton. Now, with the steel market already being very disappointing at the beginning of 2020, we do not expect this to have any type of an uptick anytime soon. When you see gas prices dropping 15 to 17%, oil prices dropping 15 to 17% year to date, that's going to affect the gas prices, that's going to affect the steel and iron prices, thus leading to a lower market. And going back to the supply chain we talked about, not as many metals are going to be needed nearly as often. It looks like we have a question, Virginia.
We have a question from Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
He asked, would copper prices go up if we didn't sell to China?
No, they wouldn't. And that's currently what's happening, Joseph. When a lot of the tariffs were implemented, and great question, thank you for taking a couple of seconds to jot it down. Number one, the U.S. can't stop just cold turkey selling copper to China. They're still one of the world's largest consumer of the metal. But what the Chinese did was they eliminated low-grade copper items coming into the country and really restricted more to number one tubing, bare bright copper, and very high-quality pure copper items. So the Chinese did that on their own, and that affected the entire market about 1.5 to 2 years ago when a lot of these tariff and trade talks started. So, number one, there's no association or one company throughout the U.S. that owns all the different scrap yards. While many of us are members of associations and groups, no one can tell the other what to do or how to do their business. So you'd be talking about such a crazy amount of people. Almost 200,000 people are employed by the scrap metal industry here in the United States. So to be able to have that many people and that many companies kind of band themselves together, it would ultimately hurt us. And when you stop selling so much material overseas, the question becomes, where do you sell it? If the Chinese are consuming 50% of the world's copper, what other countries are going to now just step up and take that 50% that you no longer sell there? So it's a lot more complex than, hey, can we do this? Great question. I'm happy you asked it. Now, with the steel prices dropping down, oil prices dropping down, stock market being topsy-turvy all over the place, hopefully we can see a little light at the end of the catalytic converter tunnel. Now, our cats, we're closely monitoring the platinum, palladium, and the rhodium markets, which all have seen a pullback over the last week and a half. Our prices that are listed online at rrcats.com give you the ability to see some of the markets, see some of the updates, and we have a new newsletter coming out in the next few weeks that you'll be able to subscribe to if you've sold us catalytic converters before, giving you more of an insight specifically on that catalytic converter market. Now, we're watching these markets, and if you're a Patreon supporter of ours, you've been receiving multiple updates every week on instant price increases, price decreases, or even market fluctuations of other things that could affect the scrap metal industry. Now, we've been watching these things, paying close attention, but with a weakening steel market, a very insecure copper market, we're really watching these things and hoping in the next 3 to 6 months to have a little more of an idea of where it's going to happen and where it's going to go down the road into 2020. But ultimately, I think that we might be waiting until 2021 and really until after the US presidential election is over to have a better understanding of where the markets are going to go moving forward. Scrappers, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. We appreciate you tuning in, asking your questions, leaving your comments, and more importantly, giving us the opportunity to show you what's going on with the markets. Don't forget to download the iScrap app to your smartphones today, where you can get national price averages, subscribe to our weekly reports, and until next week, iScrappers, I'll scrap you later.